The controversial Northland project, a large-scale housing and suburban community at the end of Needham Street, was approved by the City Council by a vote of 17-7. The 22.6-acre lot will include retail and office buildings, as well as 800 units of housing.
On the project size itself, I simply don't know the right size. But the realist in me sees the added vehicular capacity the state is building into Needham Street. I see the context of the site constrained on all sides by either a one-lane bridge, F-service on the main road, and a one-lane side street leading into a village center. And I say, yeah, I think it's too big. I get that on a generic 22-acre site, 800 units and 300 square feet of retail and office makes sense, but this is no generic location. So as I keep hearing people say 800 units is the right size, I had to look at it, and thankfully, we have experts that have studied it. First, I looked to the MAPC about this location. And in the right-of-way transit study completed in 2013, they concluded, and I'm paraphrasing, that the 22-acre site was ripe for development and that past analyses indicated that the site could hold between 300 and 500 square feet of office and retail and 200 to 300 residential units. Okay, that's one data point. Then I looked at their interim 2013 MAPC Needham Street mark analysis. They went a bit higher as they realized they were evaluating the full corridor. This is not just the parcel. And concluded the market could potentially support several hundred apartments or condos, specifically 477, with 350 to 450 square feet of retail and office. These 477 are in addition to the 295 built at Avalon, but it seems reasonable to me. So where did the petitioner's original 900 come from? Well, in that same 2013 version of the MAPC study of the corridor, there was a section at the end entitled Preferred Land Use and Build-Out Analysis, done where the MAPC closely worked with the City of Newton. Together, they concluded that in order to inject more vibrance into the area, the optimal build-out will result in 200 square feet of office, a reduction in 50,000 square feet of retail, and 935 new residential units. 935, that sounds very familiar. Just to be clear, 2 studies pushed for moderate density, and then the city entered the fray to work closely with the MAPC, and only then did the density increase dramatically. Now, I understand that the city had a good reason. There's the housing crisis, I recognize, affordable housing, which I want as well, and vibrancy of the area. But just because we want it doesn't make it the right size for the community. I'm ending soon. We have all, at one point or another, talked about smart growth. It's included in our comprehensive plan. This certainly has smart buildings, but smart growth, to me, this is not. As leaders of the city, we need to determine if this is the right site, with the right size, given the context of the location. With significant and real questions remaining regarding parking, transit, mitigation, and the impact on the community, wishful thinking can only go so far. At some point, we're just hoping it will work, and as far as I see, hope is not a strategy. I know that the developer has done a superb job of offering sweeteners that address specific councilor concerns. But I implore you to look at these goodies and look at the impact on the neighborhood. As I started with, I'll repeat the Chapter 30 of our zoning ordinances and what they say in 7.3.3, that the City Council shall not approve any application where the use of developed and operated will adversely affect the neighborhood. For me, this is enough said. I urge my colleagues to vote no on this project.
I've just actually spoken to recently the attorney for the petitioner, and I told him that I was going to speak about this project. It's a good project, but I know it can be better. And that was my main reason for getting up and just explaining why I'm not going to vote for this evening. The 3 exits that go out onto Needham Street, I think, is more than enough. The people from Petty Square and the Upper Falls called me all weekend long between emails, phone calls, cell phone calls, you name it, whichever way they could reach me, they did. Okay? And they called and they stated loud and clear that they didn't want that entrance there. They were worried about their streets becoming parking lots, Chestnut Street being unable to be even turned onto from some of their driveways. And the main concern was for them to be able to still support the people who run businesses down in Petty Square. They're the ones that keep the people there. They're the ones that keep the businesses in business, and they're afraid that they're going to lose that. So the reason why I'm not voting for it is because of that exit, and that is detrimental to the people of Petty Square and the Upper Falls.
2 just quick points that really bother me. I was looking at one of the old charts. It might have been 822 units, not 800. But it originally, Northland themselves was requesting 1,913 parking spaces. That's been severely reduced. I think that they have made a mistake in doing that. And as much as some of my colleagues would like to pretty much eliminate cars as a means of transportation, that's not happening anytime soon. And there's not sufficient amount of parking spaces up there for this size project. And then the last point that I'll make that I have a problem with is I am disappointed. The I&I number, I want to thank the Commissioner for his detailed response to my questions about I&I. He went through how the number is typically calculated. We were entitled to get $7.4 million for I&I mitigation based on the formula that we use that has been approved by the state. In fact, we are only going to take $1.85 million for future mitigation. If you read his memo closely, you will read that we are going to be embarking on a second round of I&I mitigation. We will never have enough money for sewer, water, and stormwater mitigation, and I think it's a mistake for us to not take all of the money that we were entitled to. I see Councilor Crossley already making some notes on this. But the fact of the matter is, we should have taken the full 7.4. If we felt that we needed more money for traffic mitigation, we should have also demanded that. And if we needed money for Countryside, we should have demanded that. This is going to be an extremely profitable development. And I think that we have sold ourselves short on the package that we could have gotten from the developer for a project of this size.
I have to tell you the framework that I'm trying to fit it into. The public benefits here are manifest. I've read wonderful letters from people I respect immensely about the public benefits of this project, and those have been articulated better by my colleagues than I could ever do that. And you read through the board order, and it's just staggering, really. This is a project that's unique in that context. The challenge it has for me is ultimately the issue that the chairman of land use has raised, which is, does it meet the criteria in our special permit relating to the impacts on the surrounding areas? It's going to be a success internally, and part of the work the committee has done is to make it the kind of success that we've just heard about, that you've just heard referenced in other contexts. The question is whether this is going to work outside. The trip generation indicates that it's going to be somewhat under 300 trips at peak hours is going to be the maximum, and the planning department indicates that that's also going to include all the trip generations that occur from ride-sharing services, when there is some concern about whether, in fact, there is enough parking here. I know that there's a tension in the council about whether we should have parking or no parking, but when you do have cars and you don't provide parking for them, you're basically turning these into rideshare opportunities, and those rideshare opportunities, except for the shuttle that goes up, the planning department indicates double the traffic. It doesn't the same as having a car start on site, leave, and come back. So part of the challenge for me is that this has a wonderful package internally, but the external impacts do not yet add up. And I'd love to hear some more from my colleagues, but if I end up not voting for this, it'll be because of the reasons associated with the chair of land use. He's lived with this longer than anybody in the sense of trying to manage the process, and it gives me great pause that he's not willing to support it for precisely these reasons.